welcome to another episode of Kodsnack. I'm Fredrik, and in this episode I talk to Kai and Malin of Triple Glazed Studios about their new iOS weather app Mercury Weather. Kai and Malin are the creators of Orbit, a time tracking and invoicing app for iOS and the Mac, and also arrangers of meetups, creators of talks, podcasters on hold, and all-around plain and nice people. As usual, links to everything we talk about are in the show notes. Enjoy! Hello, and welcome to Kodsnack, everyone. We have Malin back. And Kai for the first time.
Woohoo! Hi!
Yeah, it's funny because I almost said we've met. I guess we've only met on very long distance, but I've been participating in meetups you both helped arrange. So I feel like we've talked a couple of times on podcasts.
Yeah. I agree. And when you said we met, I was like, wait, we might have met in person, but no, we actually haven't. I was like,
not yet.
No, exactly. Just a matter of time, right?
Yeah, and I think last time we were on, we did a podcast in Swedish, and I'm quite happy that we are able to do it in English this time. I know we're doing it for Kai, but it's a bit for me as well.
Yeah, Malin only brought me as an excuse. That way she can speak English instead of having to figure out how to say tech words in Swedish.
Yeah, it's pretty convenient to do one language throughout. And I remember last time you were on the podcast, Malin, we almost ended up doing starting a three-person podcast, I think, because Kai was in there for a while in the beginning.
yeah, that's right. It was.
Yeah, so you have a new app again. This is
yeah. I would do. I'm super excited to have it out. It was sort of a project that we wanted to work on over the summer because we want to play with a lot of the new APIs. And then we just sort of continue on it, and we're like, we should release this.
Yeah. So what was the process as quick as it seemed from just following at a distance?
It was, and honestly, originally we thought like maybe we can make something quickly that something within this time frame that we can release. But in the beginning we were like, we have to check how much we can do with SwiftUI and how much we can do with what we have. It felt a bit ambitious aiming to have it ready for September when we started on it I believe it started in May, so a little bit before WWDC. But then when WWDC came out and they released a lot of new SwiftUI APIs, we were like, okay, we can actually do this and release this especially for September.
Yeah, especially when we started playing with the idea, we mostly focused initially on weather APIs. So we just played around with different weather APIs because one thing we really want to get into the app was super accurate rain forecast in Europe.
Yes.
Because that is often, a lot of apps overlook the European markets built in the US or Canada, and then Europe, it's like, yeah, we have weather data there, whatever. But then Dark Sky obviously didn't do super accurate rain forecasting anywhere outside of the UK in the entire European area. So we thought, hey, I'm sure we can find something that does pretty decent weather forecast, rain forecast in particular in Europe. So we played with the APIs, found something we liked, and started very small steps into UI. But then Apple released Swift Charts, and we're like, perfect. That is such a good use case for what we want to do. So the only UI that's still from the pre-DubDub days is the rain forecast. So if you ever see it's going to rain in 5 minutes, that chart is still built in SwiftUI, but without Swift Charts, and all the other charts are Swift Charts.
But actually only the rain one that's in the main app and then the watch app. All the other ones in the extension, so like the widget one, those we end up rewriting.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think without Swift Charts, we probably wouldn't have made it to get it done by September, I think. It's always, always when you start a new project, you're like, how much work is this going to be, right? It's a weather app. It's essentially one screen. We wanted mostly 3 charts and then some of the weather history stuff. So we thought this going to not take too long. But then always when you get once you're like, all right, we're actually going to release that, all of a sudden you have to do all the error handling. And then you have to do, what if someone's downloading a new weather app and they're like, location? Nope, you're not getting location. It's like, oh man, you download a weather app. Location is kind of important. All right, I guess we build a flow where if you don't allow for location access, we let you add a location. So we built that, and then there's a whole bunch of other things. So it always takes a little bit longer than you think.
Yeah, and it feels like a weather app is one of those. It could be one of those categories of apps where you really have to be really firm on yourself to not have enormous scope creep. Because I imagine it's pretty easy to come up with just one more thing you could add to a simple weather app, right?
Yeah. And I think the thing with weather app is like it's so personal. Many people just have very specific ways that they like to look at data in, or so I think it can easily happen that you're like starting to allow a lot of things to be customizable. But what we decided to do was that we wanted to be a bit stricter there in the beginning and like provide what we thought made sense for the type of app that we were after, and then slowly bring in some customization if we want to, but we rather want to be a bit more opinionated in like how the app is used, because that is the good thing with weather apps. Like there are a lot of weather apps, and if you're looking for a weather app that looks and behaves in this way, this might be the perfect weather app for you.
Yeah.
And so far people like it, so
yeah. I also flip that a little bit. What we really wanted to do is build our favorite weather app. And then we hope that other people would like it too. But I think that helped us a lot, because, for example, I'm scared of offending a lot of people, but weather radars, like rain radars, is something that a lot of people request. We just don't get it.
I'm with you.
Because I see why it's nice to see clouds move.
It's cool, yeah.
But I don't really. It's not. I'd much rather have an app tell me, you know what, in 55 minutes it starts to rain, rather than looking at a map, seeing clouds move, and then me trying to do like an amateur weather forecaster job and trying to be, all right, if the clouds move this direction, I'm right in this spot, then it should rain the next. No, just let the app tell you.
I wonder if anyone has made a gamified app where you just get the radar screens and then you have to like calculate the weather yourself or something.
I like that. We should do that. Just every time we should have a flow in the app where you can request features. And if you request rain radar, we show you one, let you predict it. And if you're wrong, we're saying, all right, you do not get rain radar.
Make your own freaking weather. Yeah, and I mean, you really held back impressively on settings. There are two at the moment.
Yeah,
and it's fun. And I like that you have this the option of temperature, actual or feels like.
Yeah,
because I recall someone on a podcast somewhere having extremely firm opinions on people who want the actual temperature are monsters.
And it really depends. That's something that really depends on location. There's some places where action feels like always exactly identical, and then there's some places where with wind chill and everything, like humidity, there is actually like a 10-degree difference between the feels like and the actual temperature, which matters a lot, right? So we thought this is something that we could be convinced that it makes sense to show that.
Yeah, and the other option is to hide weather warnings.
It seems like something you shouldn't be hiding. Like when you read it, like, But the main thing that we noticed in Vancouver is that we might be a little bit less. I think Kai and I are less worried about heat warnings because we lived in Australia for a while. But here, like a heat warning in Vancouver is not a heat warning in Australia. And when we keep on seeing a heat warning in the summer, we're like, really? This doesn't seem like a heat warning. We go out anyways. And then it sort of blocks the UI and we're like, it would be nice not to see that. So we're like, let's just remove that.
Just for context, I mean, you're in Sweden. It's also notoriously not one of the hottest countries in the world. But a heat warning here often starts at 26 degrees, which is warm.
It's warm for outdoors.
But I don't know. For us, also in Australia, we still went out at like 40 degrees, and it was fine. I do admit that our kind of reference point has shifted a little bit, but I would think that most people would agree that 26 doesn't warrant a red warning label in your.
It's like an inconvenience warning. Or something. I don't know. Someone sent me an image a while ago. Maybe it was you who posted on Twitter or something. They had gotten a push notification, I think, and the weather alert was like mild drizzles expected. And it feels like the same thing.
Yeah, there's quite, I don't know, weather agencies around the world have very different definitions of what warning means, because sometimes it's just forecast, right? I feel like if the forecast says 26, do I need a heat warning for 26 as well? I feel like this is just the weather.
Yeah, I mean, next step is like sunset warning.
It might unexpectedly turn dark after 7.
It might actually be useful in the Swedish winter. But so is the thing then that these weather alerts, they come from the weather data and
they're coming from the local weather agencies. So in our case, it would be Environment Canada, and what's the YR or the whatever in Norway? What was it in Sweden? What's this?
SMHI.
Yeah. So we're getting those directly from those weather agencies, and then we're trying to get them localized based on a country you're in. So if you're German in Sweden, if what was it? SMHI?
Yeah.
If they provide German weather data, then we're showing that.
Now I'm curious. I've turned on the weather alerts to see what they get up to around here.
Yeah, in general, I think if you live in areas that have extreme weather, probably a good idea to keep your weather radars on. I'm not sure.
And some of them are useful. Sometimes they can be actually useful. But it does help us for nicer screenshots if we can turn them off. So that was the side effect. Rather than going into the code and forcing stuff or providing sample data, it's kind of nice to just have a setting that makes the UI a little bit cleaner for screenshots and doesn't warn you about it being 26 degrees.
Yeah, exactly. But so the hyperlocal rain thing was sort of the start.
Yes.
Yeah.
How hard was that to figure out? Because it feels like one of those things that if it was easy, a lot of apps should have done it already. Or
that's what we're a bit surprised about. It's not inherently hard. We just try to find a weather source again. Since launching, I think weather sources has been the hottest debate.
Yes,
we get a lot of.
One thing I really love is that so many people care and so many people who know of it as well. They're like, so I live in this very particular location in the world and we have these 3 weather sources and this is the order of preference I would like them in. It's like, wow, I really know this. And they had like compared the different ones and I'm like, wow, this is super helpful that users who actually write in, they're like very opinionated about it and they have some reason for being opinionated about it as well. It's not just like, oh, this is what I'm used to, I want this. It's like, no, they actually tested it.
Yeah. And for us, that's it's the same too. We do care about it, but when launch came sooner than always like the last few weeks. You think you get a lot done, and you get about half of that done. Our plan was to have essentially a lookup table to say if you're getting the weather in Australia, we want to use BOM data. If you're trying to get the weather in the US, we might use Apple weather. If you do it, try to get the weather in Germany or the UK, we might use open weather. That was the plan. We're not there. We didn't get there. So we decided, all right, what is something that's pretty okay everywhere? And that's why we landed on the one we're using right now. And they just provide you the nowcast for almost all locations. So what they're doing is they're getting the data feeds from most of the weather agencies that provide free data, which a lot of weather agencies around the world, they do provide free feeds to the weather data, which is pretty cool. But usually to specific weather stations that they have. So maybe if you're trying to get a weather for Stockholm, you might get a weather station that's at the airport, which is usually within the same ballpark. But what Open Weather is trying to do, and the results are varying, but in theory, you give them a very specific geolocation. They get the weather data from different stations in that area. Get the cloud coverage, they use some of the rain radars behind the scenes, and then trying to estimate for that specific geolocation what's the actual weather going to be, and what is the rain, like the when are raindrops expected to hit the ground in that location. So they're trying to use machine learning and a whole bunch of other models behind the scenes to give you more precise predictions for that specific spot.
Yeah, and we noticed that this has worked really well in Europe. We were over and visited in May, and it was a pretty rainy period where we visited. It was Sweden, Netherlands, and in Germany. and it worked to the minute, especially in Germany. It rained a lot, and it was like perfect to the minute. Kai's mother did not believe it. We told her, it's like, oh, we should probably bring the shares in because it's going to rain in a minute. She looked up, she's like, no, it won't. And like we almost started betting on it, and she was like, always not winning. And we're like, okay, I guess I should listen to this.
Beta period ever.
Yeah. And then she was like, okay, I guess I should also have this weather app. So we actually got her for the first time to download Test Flight and install the app.
Wow.
Yeah, which was awesome. She's not super tech savvy.
No.
She's pretty much like uses the apps that she have, and she has Duolingo, but like it's very few apps that she actually ends up using, yet alone going through the Test Flight process. And then once we started adding all of our shards, that was Swift, that was iOS 16 only. And she's like, what's going on? Like, how comes I'm not getting any of the updates? You're sending me all the screenshots, but it looks so much better than what I'm having. We're like, okay, wait, we're getting there. And she almost wanted to jump on the public beta of 16. But we're like, like, it's not very stable. You should stick on what you have. But then on day one, she called us up and she's like, okay, so how do I get on iOS 16 as soon as it was released?
No, she actually figured it out herself.
Oh,
she
sorry.
called me in the morning. It's like, I had to do two updates because Apple also released 15.7 the same day.
Yep.
So she updated to 15.7 first and then to 16. It's like, all right, I'm ready. I want a new Test Flight beta for your app.
It's awesome.
Yeah, so it's been real fun, and that's what I like about this app. Like Orbit, which is our other app, that is an app that's really useful for us. But telling anyone who's not like working with what we're working with, or even like it's just not useful. It's not applicable for everyone. I think our family is a bit like, oh, time tracking and invoicing. Like, yeah, that seems useful, but it's not like something that I'm super excited about and I want to check out. And the same with people on the internet. Like if you tell them what you're doing, like if you tweet about something, it's like, cool, you're doing this in Swift UI. I check it out because it's a Swift UI app, but then like it sort of stops there and there isn't a value for them. But this is just like anyone, like everyone, most people, apart from some parts in Australia where it's just always really nice. Rest of the world, people are like, okay, I really care about the weather.
Yeah, and I have opinions.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have some friends in Australia. It's like, hey, you should check out the weather app and let us know if you have any feedback. It's like, oh, I don't really check the weather in September.
Weather, I have one.
Okay, fair enough. Yeah. It's just a straight line of nice weather. Fair enough.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, but yes, that's been really fun to just have something that like everyone can use. And if this is the type of way you want to like view the weather in, then go for it. And yeah, now we are sort of on a trail of starting to add more and more weather APIs. So that's gonna be fun to like support, like have very accurate weather everywhere.
And I can totally see. The nice thing about the way, or at least in theory, the nice thing that we're building it is that we can actually say we can pick specific weather sources and blend them for different locations. So if in theory in Malmö the weather is the data is more accurate from the Norwegian Weather Institute, and in Umeå it's better from the Finnish Weather Institute. Sorry, SMHI.
Like that's how Swedes speak about it as well. Pretty often. It's like, no, I'm a YR person.
We can actually, in theory, say, all right, we're picking that based on very specific locations and blend them with, but the super accurate rain forecast for SMHI for YR might only be available in specific locations, so we can pick and choose what we think is the best and then just build over time. We're not going to have all those kind of specifics for day one, but the idea is that over time we can actually build essentially a lookup table in the app where it's like, all right, we learn more and more about what data source to use for which location, and then hopefully just keeps getting better and better. And if it changes over time, we can update that and those kind of things. That's the idea.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's really nice to have those options as well.
Yeah.
Just and keep everything in the background.
Yeah. And also that means what we don't like is for people to have to make a choice. For example, you might want to look at the weather in Sydney, Australia, but do you necessarily know the best weather service for Sydney, Australia?
You might not know, like Australians are very passionate in saying like BOM is the only weather data provider you should use, but you wouldn't necessarily know that.
But you might, you might go on vacation and you don't need to know. You just go there. We automatically pick what we believe the best weather source is for that location, which I think is going to be a nice setup.
Mm-hmm.
We'll see.
Yeah, I mean, and there are going to be those extreme weather nerds who have really strong opinions, but then they'll just have to talk you into changing the default to that location. I mean, and for everyone else, it would just be a better result than we could get ourselves.
And that's the thing, right? If there are extreme weather nerds that argue for it, they're probably right.
Yeah, exactly. They will have data.
Yeah, so we'll see. We think it could be nice, and we might even have like a way in the app to say, "Hey, this I would really like for this specific location to use this particular weather service."
Yeah, maybe add a third setting. Yeah. I'm a meteorologist. I need to pick this myself.
Again, we do a weather quiz first. Can you accurately predict the rain for the next based on a rain radar? If you get a whole bunch of questions right, then you get to suggest a better weather source.
Yeah, this is an option you have to unlock. No, it's not an in-app purchase. So apart from the big thing of adding more data sources, is there anything else you want to add to the app, or something you had to wait with until later versions?
We are adding a lot more widgets. That is another thing people are requesting. They're like, I want this particular thing. And that, I think, makes sense to have more customizable and have a lot more options in, because it's something that actually reaches out of the app and it will live on your home screen. So I think like having that a bit more customizable and more specific for your use case makes sense. So we're adding some of that.
We also have some interesting ideas there where we could potentially have an adaptive, essentially a companion lock screen widget, because you essentially have two slots, right? Two large slots or four small slots on the lock screen. So we thought what would be nice is that you can select a primary one. Let's say you mostly care about the forecast for the next hours, or you only care about the forecast for the next 4 days. And then we can have a companion one on the other side that adapts based on what the primary shows. So the primary might show the forecast for the next 4 hours, but if it rains within the next hour, it turns into rain. And then the companion would automatically turn into the forecast, so you can still see both. You see the rain immediately, and then you see the next few hours still. Or if it's not raining, then it might show the forecast on the left side or on the leading one, and shows air quality or the upcoming sunset on the companion one. To have something that always kind of works in tandem and adds to each other, rather than having one long one. You can split them up. We thought that could be nice, and then have that either in the double size or in the quarter size.
Yeah. And then I want to add lots of different companions to the watch app, watch face as well.
Yeah. So we thought that could be nice to play around with the limitations of the lock screen, but still have something that is kind of dynamic based on your selection. Could be fun.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. And then another thing we started with is translation as well. I started with the German. Now I'm doing the Swedish translation. I struggle just switching over to Swedish.
Just send it over to me. I like doing stuff like that. That's true.
Thank you. But I do think it will. One good thing I have is like, I mean, I can talk about the weather in Swedish. That's like the typical small talk. So that should be okay. That's the thing we want to do, and then we also want to translate it to French and Spanish. And we actually noticed we're not going to use Google Translate like for this, but what we noticed is that is actually a really good starting point. And then we have friends who can help us formulating it and tweaking. But we can tell them like, okay, this is sort of the sentiment we want to get across. This is a starting point, and then we have friends who can pick it up and be like, okay, this is really awkward. This is not how you actually would speak. But I do think often what I found that I struggle with doing translations is if I have like a completely blank slate and I have to come up with like the whole sentence, and having something that as a starting point that can work. So we're gonna do some more translations because I do think that like, it makes it feel more at home, and I think you will feel like even if the weather source is really accurate, I think people will feel more that it's meant for them and for the country that they're in, if it is like in their native language. So we can do that. Hopefully, I don't know when you're planning on releasing this episode, but we might have Swedish out by the time. Okay, in a week, yeah, I have time. That will be fine. We should have that out. And another thing we're working on is an iPad version, and then we're moving on to an Mac app as well, because there are not many weather apps on the Mac, and maybe we will find out why that is. But I would love to just have like the temperature or like the next 3 or 4 hour forecast in the status bar. In the menu bar. I would love to have something like that. So that's going to be like a big focus, and have something where you can like click it and then you get a bit more of an hour by hour forecast.
Yeah, and just a little floating window somewhere. Yeah, would be pretty nice as well, especially if it's like the rain. Yeah, hyperlocal rain. Yeah, it's perfect to just have a drop of water in the menu bar or something.
Yeah, totally.
The menu bar is also surprisingly close from how much space you have to lock screen widget.
Oh yeah.
So a lot of we'll see if we can actually fit some of the lock screen charts into, especially for rain. So you can actually visually see. All right, it's going to start raining in 5 minutes. So that's what we're trying to see, if we can squeeze it in there, and if it looks nice.
Yeah, so I think that will be fun. But yeah, we'll see why other people haven't done that so far.
So speaking of looking nice, did you do a lot of iteration on the look of the app?
Yeah, thank you. I think we did a fair bit in the beginning. We had quite a lot of different sort of ideas that we were exploring, but I was very, when it comes to the design, it can sometimes be a bit daunting, because we do the design ourselves, and having like this blank slate and have like all the possibilities in the world on how something should be displayed, it's a bit like, whoa, I have so many options, what should I go with? And then in the beginning we tried to really explore a lot of different options. I have had sort of I have fallen into the trap in the past where like I find one idea, I'm like, okay, this could work, and I'm like continuing spending like hours or days on it. I'm like, okay, now I spend a lot of time on this. This is what we should go with. And then it's like, it's actually not that good. So this time I actually went ahead and tried to hold all of, I tried to not be too, like, I tried to not fall in love with any of those designs early on. So I was like, okay, let's try this, let's try that. And really explored a lot of different options, lot of different colors and those type of things, and just iterated a lot on these. And then I think we got to something quite quickly. I like that process that we were doing. And then we tried to have something that we could just play around with quite quickly once we settled on one that we felt comfortable, like we felt like it was the right direction. We put that into the app, and then we just try to get it on our phones as soon as possible and see how it feels. And then once you have that, you can start tweaking it a lot. And it was pretty iterative after that.
I should also send you some screenshots of the earlier versions. They look quite different.
Yeah. The first version was a bit like, okay, now we're showing the data that we would technically qualify as a weather app at this point. But then the design, I think, did a lot to it. And it's been a really fun way of also... So the way the app works is that depending on the weather, the color of the app changes. So if it's raining, the whole UI changes to this sort of blue color, and then in the night it's purple. And then, or once the sun has set, it's purple. And then we're gonna also add one, which we haven't gotten to yet. We want to add that one that's a bit more overcasty, because like an overcast, because at the moment we feel like it's very yellow and very bright, and then you look out and we get to that time in Vancouver where it's actually really gray and like not as nice outside. So we gonna start adding some more themes there. It is a little bit hard to make an app still look pretty when you using like grayscale. So we're trying to figure out a good combination of colors there. But that's just really fun, like to add an additional element of how to represent what weather it is just by showing that in the color.
And our goal was to make things that are easily glanceable. So if you would see the app only for a second, we wanted you to have an overview of the current conditions and a little bit of the forecast. And we thought the very bold colors give you a really strong indication of the current conditions. So it turns into blue when it's raining. It's purple when it's night. It's a yellow, orange, or a kind of hot red orange, depending on the temperature.
Yeah, not when it's over 26, when it's over like 32. That's when we go to the hot ones.
You should put us in charge of weather warnings.
Oh, yeah.
So that was kind of the idea, to get the feeling of the location you're looking at, especially also when you look at different places, right? If you look for the weather in the location you're in right now, you tend to have an idea of most people have windows. So if it's raining like crazy, or if it's a beautiful day, you get an idea of that. But it's also really nice when you're exploring different locations and you see Australia is always like orangey hot, or if you look at
I really enjoyed looking at Australia during our summer. I'm like, it's raining, it's fun. And then I know in the winter they will have like beautiful sunny weather.
Or for when talking to family and you check the weather conditions before, so you're ready for the small talk portion of the chat. You can see, it's raining again.
I don't know, you might run out of interesting topics then if you know too much of the weather conditions. Where you learn
don't open with that.
It's like, what do you want to talk about the weather? I already looked up the weather.
I got that covered.
I really like how I'm switching back and forth between Apple's weather app and Mercury, and I like how much cleaner and warmer Mercury feels. And I mean, I've been having blue and purple all day, but I had some nice sunny day the other day, so I've seen that as well. But it feels much friendlier, I think.
Yeah, I do think what they did with the Apple Weather app with like the live sort of weather in the background where it changes to a bit rainy if it's raining and those things. I like that in theory, but what I didn't like a lot was the way that they display the data. I found that every time I look at it, it takes me a while to know what to look at in order to get an overview of what the weather actually is. And that was something that we felt like we don't want it to feel like you have to dig into the data, or you have to like actually like we want to make it very skimmable. So that's why we felt like, okay, having like a bit of a chart where you can really see the ups and downs in the day. And like Kai and I were very flexible in our schedule. So if we see that it's going up and it's going to be like 22 degrees in September during like at like 3 p.m., we're like, wow, that's very special for September. So we should go out then. And then we know when it would dip down again. So we can really plan our day around it. And that was something like you couldn't get that type of overview in Apple's weather app. So that's why we're like, okay, we should really nail that sort of glanceability down to how we prefer to look at it.
Yeah, it's interesting we switch back and forth as well, because the feeling is always that the Apple app is, there's so much information here. That's good, isn't it? But I don't know what I'm looking for. It isn't quite as useful. I really need to know if it's going to rain on Thursday. I want to see some more extreme rain in my forecast. I think I have a chance tomorrow or on Wednesday, actually.
Lucky you.
Yeah, I guess I'm lucky that I have to wish for stuff like that.
But it helps a lot to be in a place like, I think this app would have been a lot harder to work on if we would have still lived in Australia.
Yeah, at least in Perth. Sydney has weather. West Coast of Australia, it's like, it's nice.
Yeah, but here when I built the original the minute by minute rain forecast, it was raining all the time.
Yeah, honestly, we realized probably 1 month into the development process that we had the color we used for sun did not fit with the rest of the app, but we didn't realize that until like a month in, because it had just always been cloudy.
We accidentally set the sun to gray. Yeah. And we didn't notice it. Because we've not seen the sun glyph in so long.
That's kind of sad.
Yeah, so May was rough in Vancouver.
Yeah, clearly.
But really, really good to build rain forecast. And it was almost hard the hardest part to test was it never stopped, so we could never see if, for all we knew, it might have always the API always returned rain.
It's raining now, and it's always going to rain. I'm sorry. Trust me, it works.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then how long ago was the release now? Is it like 2 weeks?
It would have been, 2 weeks today, right? Yeah.
And it seems like you got quite a bit of attention, right?
Yeah. So we were first just super excited at the launch day because many people who we just like from us sharing it, many people seem to have really liked it. But then, was it maybe like a weekend? So last Tuesday we also got in the beginning we did get some really cool tech blogs writing about it. So we got 9 to 5, including us in some lists, and then there was also some other publications that actually wrote about it. So that was awesome.
App Advice and even some international one, which was cool.
Yeah, some French websites and those things. Yeah,
and we also got a lot of feedback, which was nice. Back in the days, we really liked Weatherline, which was a weather app that we enjoyed using a lot. But they shut down, I don't know, 2 years ago now? A while ago.
Yeah, they shut down. The official shutdown was earlier this year. I think it was in April. And that's when
was it? No, it would have been longer ago.
Okay, yeah. But when they shut down, because we hadn't been planning on building a weather app because we were covered. But then once they shut down, like completely like turn off their API, we're like, okay, we gotta find something that fixes it.
And that's also when we still used it as long as they kept it alive. Yeah. But then we bounced around and we didn't find anything that were like that really suited our way of wanting to look at the weather. So a lot of people that we learned, a lot of people felt the same way. So that was nice to hear too, that people felt kind of bouncing between different weather apps and found that Mercury is an accurate match for how a bunch of people like to look at forecasts.
Yeah, we got some people sending us like support messages or like feedback and saying like, hey, I have not had a good weather app that I could use. Like I haven't found my favorite weather app because this one is not here anymore. So, and the people were like, okay.
One person sent us a message, you saved iOS. It's like, okay,
it's a bit extreme, but we take it.
Yeah, exactly. I'm not going to argue.
So I think overall we got really positive feedback during like the first launch, and I don't think I haven't worked on an app that got that much positive feedback in the beginning. Especially, I think often it's like people having specific feature requests and those things, or it doesn't do exactly what they need. But in this case, everyone who sent us things, it was like, I just want like a little bit more, like I want this data, and we already talked about that, and everything they asked for made sense. It's like, okay, yeah, I see what you would want.
And a lot more of an emotional response. Orbit launch was pretty good as well. Like people who found it liked it, and they're like, hey, this really solves a need. Well, the Mercury launch was a lot more about emotion. People saying that they love the UI and they love the colors and how they're excited to in the morning to check the weather and you know it was a very different feeling when people say they love it or that they can't wait to tell all their friends and they're excited to show it around. Right? There was so much more emotion in the response. With Orbit, it was like, yep, it solves my needs. Which is cool too, because that's what we built that for, right? But it felt very different when we had people reach out and they had an emotional response rather than just, yes, an accurate representation of the weather forecast. It was like, no, actually a lot of emotion and feelings in there, which was cool.
And I never would have guessed it.
Yeah. Yeah. So it was really nice. Like I was super happy with the launch. And then last week we were also fortunate that John Gruber wrote an article about the app. Yeah. So that made us a bit very excited, but also a bit nervous. We're like, wow, okay, we should make sure because we have like API quotas and those things. We're like, okay, let's keep our eyes on the APIs to make sure that we're not like going over the quota. And we, I think probably half an hour in, we actually had to up one of the plans for one of the data providers we're using.
But it's also great. And like, I don't know, Malin and I, we've been reading Daring for Outball since, I don't know, for me, probably since 2005. 5 or 6, something. A couple
Yeah,
years before the iPhone, I think.
I think the
Same
first
here.
time we went to also the first time we went to Cupertino to the Apple campus before we were developers, we just went there because like we were in California for the first time when we knew like we had a sort of strong. We really liked Apple and the product, so we were like, okay, we should go to Apple campus. And I look back at this picture from like 2009, and I wore like I wore a Daring Fireball shirt in the picture. I'm like, well, that's fun, and I think it's something
pictures.
that's been with us for a really long time. And we're like, so just seeing our app being on the blog that we've been reading so long was so cool.
And not just on the blog, but also very positive words, because John can be critical.
He can be restrictive with his praise.
He's not dashing out positive reviews about apps every day. So it was also very when we saw it, we're like, okay, let's see. And it was like, oh man, knocked it out of the park. Getting a baseball reference from John, that is pretty cool.
That's big.
Yeah, and then the biggest complaint being that the app is too cheap. We're like, we can work with this.
Yeah. And then a follow-up post about some our weather data, which we expected. So, which was fair enough.
Yeah. That was really exciting. And then we after that we just felt like we noticed that the sort of the feedback messages we got had sort of changed. Many people were still like super positive, but the type of bugs that certain people run into were like very obscure, very specific, like deep down system level things that they were running into. And we're like, okay, this is an indicator that quite a lot of people are using this now. It's like, this is the level of feedback guidance we're getting. It's like, wow. Yeah. And there were many things that we noticed were related to iOS 16 and StoreKit, or iOS 16. Another one was a fun one, which is WatchOS 9. If you have a standalone watch app that is only supporting WatchOS 9, there's this like particular naming in like the widget picker on
but only the widget picker on your iPhone that's running iOS 16. If you go to the watch app and then you configure your watch face from there, standalone WatchOS 9 apps built with the Xcode 14 built with Xcode 14 do not get a name label for the widget in that particular picker that particular setup.
It just has this generic placeholder string, and we just realized when someone sent us we knew about it, to be fair, but that was because we had tested that
everything
flow. But we got a user sending us a message saying like, hey, did you know that the string is not
multiple
like, your actual
users.
Name? We're like, wow, we did not think many people would go into this particular part of the app and see this. And,
I imagine that's the Daring Fireball audience. Yeah. Like, take the time and better report this. 1, 2, 3, 4.
Yeah, and I super appreciate it. I think there's
of course. I mean, it's best kind of bug reports.
Yeah.
We have one review on the App Store of a person listing every single bug that we're aware of. Like, man, in one way I appreciate it, but also, man, this person ran into every single known issue we have. that either means they're very thorough or very unlucky. And some of them, we unfortunately, like that label, there's nothing we can do. We filed it with Apple, and a friend of ours also ran into it. Same setup, WatchOS 9 only, or WatchOS 9 standalone app. And he filed a DTS, like a developer ticket with Apple.
Support.
Yeah. And he got a response. Oh yeah, that looks like a bug. I'll look into it. And then the next day it's like, yeah, it is a bug. Please get assist, install the logging profile, get a SIS diagnosis on your watch and your phone, file a radar, attach all of those. It's like, if you tell me you could reproduce it, do I really have to jump? Because on the watch it's kind of annoying to do this.
Oh yeah.
And it's a very like Apple's new app template has the same bug. It's very easy to reproduce.
Someone's just being trouble.
But on the flip side, it's common enough. I monitored my list of apps in that screen. More and more apps, once they update to WatchOS 9, and now run into that. So the list of apps with a null companion name keep growing. So I hope Apple's going to fix that.
Yeah.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah. Yes, that's been fun. There's been a few of those like bugs that we have had to hunt down.
One other one that one kept us awake at night for the almost entire week.
Oh,
yeah.
Also a little bit obscure. We're using StoreKit 2 for in-app purchases, and the widgets, everything that's an extension in the app is only for premium users because they make way more API requests and we're paying per API request. So we thought if we didn't quite know what we wanted to be a premium feature, and we thought, all right, this makes sense. There's a one-to-one correlation, right? If someone only uses the main app, how often would you check the weather a day? Even a heavy user, probably not more than 20 times a day. But the widget...
Yeah, I don't think that's it.
But that would be a crazy heavy user, right? Like worst case user would be a free user that checks the weather 20 times a day. That for our like cross calculation was like, this is the worst case scenario.
Yeah.
And so we thought, all right, the widget will do that for everyone automatically, right? That's just
and it could do it every 15 minutes. It could do it every hour, but it's going to be a lot more frequent.
So we're trying to be smart. If we notice rain upcoming, then we refresh a bit more frequently because then you want to see the accurate rain prediction. So, but no matter what, it will mirror or exceed a very heavy user. So we thought, all right, let's put all the extensions. And of course, you could have 5 widgets, right? You might have 6 widgets. You might have 2 lock screen widgets, 2 home screen widgets. You still watch complications. So we thought, all right, we should make that premium only. But flip side to that was that in StoreKit 2, there's a way of saying, give me all the purchases the user has. And we're using that on the widget to check if the user has a purchase, right? Seems sensible.
And in general, we were like, oh, StoreKit 2, this is nice. We can do everything like directly through StoreKit. It in theory seemed really smooth.
But it looks like there is a bug in StoreKit 2 on iOS 16.0, where if just after the widget is initialized, if we would immediately check for did the user purchase something, StoreKit would sometimes return no. Which is pretty annoying if you have someone that just gave you money and then you tell them, hey, you should really give us money to unlock this.
But it didn't happen to every user. It seemed to be a fraction of users. So it was really hard to reproduce. And this was something we just couldn't get testing in like any test sandbox environment.
And it never happened in if you build it in Xcode, it would never happen for like simulator builds. And if you're using that environment for testing, it would never happen in the sandbox and test flight. It would only happen on production, which is notoriously the easiest environment to debug things in.
As we all know.
So that was a little bit of a nightmare where we went through a lot of iterations.
We always assume that the bug is on our side. We're not gonna just be like, oh, it's probably an Apple thing, because they have a lot of engineers. They should be they're probably testing their stuff, which I think they are. But there are edge cases for Apple as well, and we just assumed it was ours. So we sort of like dig through the code and started really looking. And we're like, oh, maybe it's not a StoreKit thing. Maybe it's related to the location not being there, and it's like falling through some edge case that we have where we're doing the logic there. But then we realized like, no, there's nothing here. It must be a StoreKit thing. And then we were able to do a little bit more sort of monitoring to figure out what was going on with StoreKit. And we figured out that this was it. And then we end up adding like our own sort of fallback options to really make sure that this isn't an experience for the users.
It is very it's very much gaffer tape, but the easiest workaround, we do have 2. The easiest one is wait 2 seconds and ask again. If Apple says no purchase, wait 2 seconds and ask, are you still sure? And usually then after 2 seconds, like, oh, never mind, there was a purchase.
It doesn't feel right. Like if I would see this, I would be like, why are they doing this? But it doesn't feel like great code, but it does fix the problem.
But it seems we've not been able to reproduce it in the 16.1 beta and WatchOS 9.1 beta. So our hope is that it's fixed, but again, it's hard to reproduce, and but we got enough users reporting it that it was a real issue. Since we deployed the fix to just wait 2 seconds and try again, we've not heard anyone having the issue, so we believe that fixed it. But even if not, we do have behind the scenes yet another fallback in case. So we only trust Apple now if they tell us twice that there is no purchase, that there is actually no purchase, which we think is also, better give people too much access than revoking it unnecessarily, right? If someone just gave you money, and usually Apple will tell us a second time at some point, right? The next time the app launches, let's say we get an update to the receipt and saying user is canceled or refunded it. Let's say worst case scenario, they got a refund. We don't trust that. Next time the app launches, we get nope, still no purchase, and then we would disable it just to make sure we're not pulling anything out too early if Apple just incorrectly gives us the wrong state. And we think that combination seems to have resolved the issue, which is good. And now we can sleep soundly again.
Yeah. But that's the thing. We intentionally don't have any analytics, any tracking, anything that tracks the users within the app. So our sort of feedback loop for this one has to be like, okay, no one has told us that they've seen this label in a while, so we just we have to assume that it's fixed for everyone. And we also know that with like all of the fallbacks we have, very unlikely that this is still a problem. We're pretty comfortable that 2-second wait alone fixed it.
Yeah, if it would still fail, we would probably immediately change careers.
I guess that's a good thing about purchase related problems, that people are pretty guaranteed to let you know if they have a problem there.
Yeah, that's a good thing. That's a very optimistic way of looking into this. Yes.
I have to say that people have another. I like the little, I guess, Easter egg when you become a premium subscriber. You can start.
Yeah.
Maybe I shouldn't spoil it for people, but you get something fun in the settings screen if you become a premium subscriber.
Yeah. It's also funny. Some of the things we didn't expect people to care about, but it's, again, I use my family as a reference to.
This one is interesting.
My mother sent me a message that she every morning she's now using that Easter egg to try to align all of the icons in one row.
Really? Yes.
So she's playing it like a mini game. It's funny.
Ooh.
So she figured there's a if you change your font size to be smaller, you have slightly more space. So she found a cheat in something that isn't even a game. Yeah,
you are going to gamify this, right?
But that's the fun thing. Like, we can really put in a lot of different sort of Easter eggs in this app because it's meant to be a fun, playful app. I think if you put those type of things into your invoicing and time tracking app, people will not appreciate it in the same way.
You have to do different things there, I guess.
Yeah, but this is like, and I think we also got the amount of, because we have a free offering, right? There will be significantly more people just like playing around with the app and finding things. I mean, not this one; they have to pay for, so we will leave that one behind there. But there are many things that people can just explore and like come across, and we get messages from people like, "Hey, this is really fun," and I love adding those delights and really have this as sort of like a bit more of a just playground app where we can really start adding those things that are a bit more just special and unique to the things that we like to have in an app or the things that we want to play with and those things. So.
There's also one more Easter egg that, as far as I know, no one's found yet. So anyone listening, you could be the first to find that Easter egg. And if you do it, let us know, because otherwise we just tell everyone that no one's found it, but everyone found it already.
Could be. Wow, now I need to look around.
It is. I gotta say, it's pretty hard to. That one is pretty hard to find.
That's the good stuff. So you mentioned, tokens and the risk of running out and stuff like that. Is it a big issue? Is it something you have to worry a lot about?
Not anymore. I thought when we released this app that it would be fun to not have as much of a server component of our own, because like, look, it's an app. It makes API calls. We're using other APIs that are like already established. But I think I might be a bit of a control freak. I quite like when we had everything under on our own DigitalOcean box, and we knew like all of the, like we knew the traffic and had a very accurate representation of that. So with this, we just found that like the monitoring, the tooling that the different APIs provide us with have not been like, it's not what we would provide as tooling. It's just been a little bit of a black box on seeing like how many users and how many API calls are being triggered and those things. But we noticed that we got more attention from the Daring Fireball article. We're like, okay, we should make sure that we're like on a plan that really allows for that. So we have a grace period. If we would go over the API limit that we have, we'll get an email, nice. We'll know about it. So things won't go down.
But that's something we did actually run into. The first night after launching, we woke up to messages from friends. It's like, hey, your app doesn't show any weather. You're aware of that, right? Like,
oh no.
So it was, we submitted an update at 3 a.m. that night. And then apparently we hit the API limit or the API quota that we expected to last all month at 6 a.m. So,
which is it's a good problem to have. We're like, well,
yes,
but again, no. It's also nice to not have problems.
It's still nicer not to.
So I think at 7:30, I woke up, checked my phone. I was like, oh no. So we immediately upgraded the plan, and it was back an hour. I think I think it was an hour and a half. It was down for an hour and a half. So we got about 4 hours of sleep that night, because after that we were wide awake, so we didn't fall asleep again. So we upgraded the plan, and now as Malin mentioned, we're on a plan where if we would hit our quota, they're no longer turning us off. They're actually saying, hey, you hit your API quota, you got a grace period that we let you know. Because for the plan we were initially on, again, because we thought it's going to be our favorite weather app, and maybe a few of our friends hopefully liking it, and at least either genuinely liking it, or because they like us saying that they like it. we didn't expect it to reach kind of outside of that necessarily. But the plan we were on, they had a hard cutoff. There was no warning. There was not even you're at 50% of your quota. It was just an email. It's like, by the way, you're now over your quota, and we turn off all the API requests. Like, oh no.
Yeah. So that's what I'm saying. Like, if we would have had like everything under our own control, that would have been more comfortable of a launch. But now I think we're definitely in the green. It's going to be, now we feel comfortable with this plan. So,
so I guess if you had your own backend, you could sort of
swap the API key or
I mean, and I suppose you could use tokens much more efficiently or something.
Yeah,
it's a little bit hard for what we were trying to do, because of the super local forecast models. We don't want to do a lot of caching. So the only thing we're caching very heavily is if for premium users. One other thing that's only for premium users is weather normals, or average weather for a month. That we can cache pretty heavily, because we're taking the average for 30-year period.
It's all historical data. It's not gonna change.
So for most places, we look at the data between 1990 and 2021, and then we're averaging them for each month. So that January, I mean, best case scenario, those shouldn't change very, very violently. If they change very violently, we have other problems.
I don't know if you have or someone else.
No, I think we as humanity,
we collectively.
I think at that point people should probably want just email us saying, "Hey, your weather normals for January is a bit off here," but no.
And at that point, you should probably turn on weather warnings again.
But look out for yesterday's weather. It's awful.
But those we cache super heavily, because realistically the odds of those changing are low, and if in general there is usually a pattern. Like, I often look at Vancouver, even in theory I do know roughly the run over the month. It's often I look into, all right, when should we plan our trip to San Diego, for example? Let's do it when the rain chart shows a lot of rain and the temperature chart shows very low numbers. So we often use those. So those we can cache pretty heavily. But because of the rain stuff, it's a pretty small square that we're using for the because it can vary quite a lot, right? Even if a rain cloud comes in, and the people that like rain radars, they can probably empathize with that. It is, a difference between 500 meters can mean that rain starts either a few minutes later or not at all. So we don't think we will do a lot of caching for that going forward. I mean, we're always open to optimization for that, but I think it is unlikely that we would be able to cache a lot. And also, a lot of weather service providers don't actually allow you to cache their data, which in a way makes sense, right? They don't want you to say make a bunch of API calls, cache the weather all over the world, and then pretend you are now a weather provider too.
Yeah.
You just need to download it once.
Yeah, just.
I got this torrent of a Pirate Bay. All the weather.
Pirateweather.com.
Oh, yes.
So I do see where they're coming from, because it's their business to sell you access to their weather data.
It does make some kind of sense.
Yeah.
It's fun to look at the averages.
It is, right? Like, it's surprising. I realized that Stockholm it's not great. It's like, finally, when it gets a lot warmer, it gets a lot more rain as well. It's like the correlation between top temperature of the year and rain is like skewed. It's not great. I remember having, like, I know when living in Stockholm and like growing up in Sweden, it's like it was always like you had very rainy summers, but I thought that was just like me thinking of it because like you remember the bad weather. But now, and then I look at the weather normals, it's like, whoa, no, the summer is actually the rainiest period in Stockholm. That's unfortunate.
Actually, Gothenburg is surprisingly even across the year.
Yeah,
on average. Yeah, February to mid-May is the period of lowest average rain.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, and then there's all the way to June to September is about the same, and then there's a jump up over October, November, December, and into January.
That's a nice thing in Vancouver. The summers are nice depending on where you're coming from, but Vancouver is very dry in the summer, which makes for really nice summers, but also has the negative side effect that we do often have wildfires here. Which now makes a lot more sense, right? If you're actually seeing, like, it's super rainy for most of the year, and then the summer is just completely dry. So we like it a lot. We look at it all the time.
Yeah, I also like looking at places in the southern hemisphere, Australia, because you start looking at the temperature and like the graph goes the other way around because it's it's the coldest during our summer period.
Yeah, so it's usually a frowny in the northern hemisphere, right? But a smiley in the southern hemisphere.
Yeah. The sunshine is a serious frowny here.
Yeah. I think Singapore is also interesting. It's just a straight line.
Just a straight line.
Oh, yeah.
We have a friend who sent us a message. I never use weather apps, but yours is nice to look at. In some places, it's kind of weird, right? If you live in Sweden, to think of the idea that some people don't even have the weather app on their phone. It's like it's so absurd to think about that you don't need the weather app.
Funny, when we started playing with weather APIs, I was thinking of another like potential like funny type of game where I don't know if you played GeoGuessr, where you so it's like for people who listen, like you basically get placed somewhere on Google Maps and you have to figure out where on the earth you've been placed, and you can only look around, and the people playing this, and they are really good at this. So I was thinking of something like that, but for weather, so you just get a random temperature, random precipitation, and you have to just figure out like where in the world is this the weather, and it would be interesting to see how close people can get.
But if you add the normals into the mix, you can actually get pretty close, because you often have like wind direction, and then you can usually figure out which coast you might be close to. And when you see the normals, you can figure out a little bit of like, all right, which hemisphere are we at? And there's actually quite a lot of data, location data you can pull out of weather data. That was still in our naive period when we thought, all right, first we build the weather app, and then we add the fun game and see if it's actually fun. It turns out we did not have extra time. at all. And in fact, has to cut a whole bunch of features to make it.
Yeah, in June you always feel like, what? It's like 3 months away. We have all the time in the world. This is fine. It's a weather app. How hard can it be? And I'm like, okay.
But also, it seems like this year Apple was in the same situation because there are quite a lot of changes in 16.1 already.
Ask us about Stage Manager.
But even things like charts. We reported a bug in charts where certain annotations wouldn't be accounted for in the calculation of the frame.
So basically, if you have anything like above any label above the chart, it's above the line itself. So if you have a
like
line
your temperatures,
chart, yeah, exactly. Then that's like an additional annotation. It's part of the chart, and it's part of the mark, like the chart mark, and Apple doesn't account for anything that is above to actually be within the boundaries of the frame of the chart. So,
if you're not giving it extra padding yourself, the text will be clipped. So we added So we added in for 16.0 the release. We added custom padding on top based on the dynamic size of the font. So dynamically increase and shrink based on the font size, which worked really nice. And then we installed the betas, and all of a sudden all of our charts were just flat lines. We're like, well, oh no, what happened here? Initially, I only updated
especially in the widgets when it's already a smaller like interface where like there's not that much room to play with, so all of the chart literally just look like completely straight. We're like, oh no, does Apple not allow for charts in the widgets? Like, what's going on here?
And then we found out they actually fixed the bug, so our custom padding now just pushes everything right into the center. So we're already in the build that's on the App Store right now. We already have, if available, iOS 16.1 code. Even if iOS 16 isn't available, so it's also fun. Very, very when you're so early into things, it's you sometimes see things that Apple didn't make for day one either.
You're never alone.
But I always think that's fun. I know it's a little bit frustrating to like have to add our own workarounds for this, but it is fun to be part of that journey and like really be there from day one and continue iterating on things. I feel like I know a lot more about SwiftUI and like each version of what has changed on each of them, which could be frustrating, but it's also quite fun. It's like SwiftUI trivia.
Yeah, it's also fun when we talk to, we have some friends that work at Apple, and sometimes we talk to them about the issues that we know they ran into, not because they told us, just because we accounted them through the period, and they're like, who told you that? It's like, oh no, we just used the API and then we inferred the rest. So like, man, yep, that's what happened. Which is also, it's kind of fun when you're just based on the state of certain parts, when you can draw metadata about the internal state of the company.
Then you know you're into it.
One thing we have noticed is that, especially in the early days, when there were those type of bugs that we had to, that were limits on SwiftUI, we had to add our own workarounds, and it worked perfectly fine. It was great, but then often those things were like actually making quite significant changes to like either diving into UIKit and making some changes there, or adding like quite severe workarounds. And then we noticed that Apple seemed to have taken the same creative approach in the next iOS version, and they were like, okay, now our workaround isn't working because they are they are doing the same thing behind the scenes. And then we ended up having to pull those things out.
We were talking to someone I think it was at DubDub. And they told us, you're not going to be happy with us. The way you're presenting new windows and macros when you're double clicking an item in a list, that's going to go away for you. Like, oh
man. you won't like it. On the other hand, you'll be able to relate. Funny you would mention. And I guess that's also kind of one of the charms of developing an app in such a short time as well. You don't have that option. Oh, maybe later. It's either do something now and work with it, or not do it at all. So yes, it sort of stretches your creativity.
I do think we have decided now that the next new app we start is not going to be during the summer period. We think it makes more sense to work on a new app during the winter period when things aren't changing as much on Apple's side. And then we can be ready in June to start working on the things that are like new features. It just happened that this summer we were like, we really want to play with those APIs, and we do want to make a weather app. So let's try to do this within this like short period. But I think now we sort of learned like no. And a new project we should probably start in December.
Yeah, it's also funny. We started this partially because we expected that there's a good chance for WeatherKit to come out. So initially we thought, all right, which API do we use as part of that? Because we always knew that we wanted one for Europe, and then we thought we can use WeatherKit everywhere else if they announce it. Otherwise, we had a nice fallback. And now we do import WeatherKit in the app, but mostly we're using Apple's types that they expose in WeatherKit to get localized, for example, for wind direction. You know how it says north, northeast, or whatever the wind is blowing into, or from, rather. So we're using Apple's WeatherKit data models to parse our data into to then get localized representation of wind direction, as one example. So we do use WeatherKit, but not for what most people would use it.
Is it just a matter of time that you're not using it for more? Or is
it will be part of our blending of data source update.
Yeah.
So there's more to come.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised if you do another quick app next year. If there's some interesting enough API, right?
Yeah, maybe. I think I would like to start things in December, but realistically, when WWDC comes out, we're like, how hard could it be to make
December,
this app?
and then it will be ready for something new to do in June, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
We'll see. I mean, it's always, you have one thing is your plan and the other thing is reality, and they rarely match up.
Oh yeah, of course. But it's good to have a plan, though.
Yeah. But it's also, I think it's a mindset thing. We at some point decided, rather than you can decide. It's like a red or a blue pill. You can decide to either be grumpy about things changing underneath you all the time and be annoyed. Or you can embrace it and be like, "Hey, this is fun. We're all building something that's, by all accounts, no one's gonna die if things break. No one's gonna be injured. We're not shooting astronauts into space. If there's a change and it kind of hits us in a weird way, we learned a new thing. And usually our apps are it's okay if they're, for Orbit a little bit less so, right? We want to get the invoice calculation stuff right. But if there's a visual bug, most people are like, cool, whatever, it's fixed in the next version. So I think it's also, we decided, hey, it's fun to play with the new things. We expect some things to change. We expect some things to maybe not work exactly the way we expected or hope for them to, and then we figure it out and we fix it. And I think that way we have a lot more fun. We're a lot more positive, and realistically, even what we considered a pretty bad StoreKit issue, 4 days later it was all solved, and
we learned a lot about StoreKit.
Yeah.
And everyone got a really nice app out of it as well.
and that doesn't mean I wish for that bug to come back. I'm happy that it's solved, but in the end, it wasn't the end of the world.
No, I think that's the right mindset to have for so many things.
yeah, you're right. That applies to most things in life.
Is there anything else you want to add? I realize we've been talking for a while already, so I don't want to keep you all day. It's great fun.
Yeah. No, wait.
Did you release anything for iOS 16? Did you work on anything fun?
No, I haven't.
No.
I want to touch that early version of OS.
No, I actually haven't. I haven't done any code side projects in a year, I think.
Oh wow.
I realized I made it one of those, bad thoughts. Like, I should be doing this. Should be doing this. Like, okay, put it away. Pick it up again when it comes back.
Yeah. Once December comes around, it's a...
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. I would like to try to add some shortcut support to podcast chapters.
Now is a really good time. Like, shortcuts, for most things, not having to use intents file is just pretty nice, right? If you can only do iOS 16 or Ventura only things, that would be pretty nice to use the new configurations rather than using the old ones, which were always a little bit of a pain.
Yeah, and last time I tried, there was some kind of bug somewhere in the process as well. So the shortcuts never showed up in the shortcuts app.
Oh, that seems pretty significant.
Yeah, it was limiting. This has not been tested. It won't be until it's in production. So, that's why
it never showed up, or it took a while for it to show up?
No, it never showed up. People had lots of suggestions, and I think there was something I could do to. I think there was something I could do, like switching back and forth between sandbox accounts or something like that made it appear sometimes, but it would never run.
Okay.
There was some like halfway. It almost looked promising. But
you know that feeling when you think you make a breakthrough and you're like, yes, of course. Yeah. Now it all makes sense, and you run it and you make it one step further, and then it still doesn't work, and you're like, what? Yeah. I both love and hate that feeling.
Yeah. So yeah. No, I look forward to picking it up again.
Yeah. Yeah. I think shortcuts are really nice. Also, I do think we'll play a lot with focus filters and those kind of things in Orbit.
Oh, yeah.
And the dynamic island or life activities for Orbit will be fun too.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense with the timer, like ticking away there at the top. I think that would be really cool.
Oh, yeah, of course.
Are you planning on getting anything new, a new phone or what?
I mean, everyone else is complaining that my 10S microphone is dying. Oh. so there might be something.
Yeah. I think it's a really good year. I upgraded from a 12 mini to the big phone, and I was dreading it. I really like the mini. The mini is it's still the right form factor. I will. That's a hill I'm willing to die on. The mini is the right. I mean, that's you know
it
the old
fits in your hand. It's
exactly.
Like your thumb goes from here to here. That's exactly what it used to be. And I don't know. Did people's hands grow? I don't know. And like mine didn't. I think we should bring that ad back. And
so if we ever get a Mini Pro, I would immediately, even if it would come in, even if Apple would release a Mini Pro in 3 weeks. I know they won't, but if they would, I would immediately upgrade to that.
I think I'm with you.
Yeah. But despite all of that, going from the Mini to a Pro, I was dreading it a little bit. But there are so many nice improvements, especially going from 12 to 14. I really like ProMotion. I think ProMotion is a huge upgrade. I really like high frame rate screens, like on my MacBook. That is so nice. A lot of people say they can't see it, but I scroll and I marvel at the scrolling. It just feels so nice. I really enjoy that. The camera array is pretty stunning. We did a little bit of a photo walk at night the other day. And it's pretty incredible what kind of pictures you can take with those cameras,
especially in the lower light situations, or like even the night mode pictures are it's really cool. And
also
the Pro RAW.
And I was a little bit. I really like the 2x lens on the 12 Pro models and 11 Pro. And when I went away with 13, that was the one lens I probably used the most. And now having the now called main camera, the 1x, having so big of a sensor and having 2x essentially being a crop on that, in bright or in not night situations, I cannot tell that that's a crop. It is so good of a picture that it for me it feels like I have 4 lenses on that phone, which is really, really, really cool. And realistically, I mostly used it in those environments because I would always go with a main camera for night pictures because of the you get so much more light in that lens. So I wouldn't use the 2x too much in dark situations anyway. And now it feels like you have the best of all worlds. You have a 1x, you have a 2x, you have a 3x. It's like Apple is like, you take whatever you want. And having Pro RAW on top of that you wouldn't want to shoot everything in Pro RAW. 48 megapixels, those pictures are huge. But having that as an option, and it's quite an upgrade. The dynamic island is just fun. It's delightful UI animations, especially if you have an app that you shoot into the dynamic island, and you I don't know if you've seen those videos, but you can kind of curveball it.
The slow motion. I saw that.
And if anyone has the phone, like just play around, like move, like dismiss an app in different directions. It's like you can really sort of the organic animation, and it's sort of like goes into the dynamic island as this sort of like bubbly effect, almost like it's very bouncy, very satisfying. And I think they really did a good job in making that feel like a separate sort of part of the UI that is more like an additional piece of the phone.
I never interact
really cool.
with it. That is something I thought I would maybe, but I never interact with it. Again,
that
it's
still feels awkward to me.
The size problem.
Yeah, for me, it's more like I know that I can't tap everywhere. Like there's a camera there, and I know that it's a very specific place.
It's so it's both, area in the middle.
Yeah, it's both like I don't think there wouldn't be any tap target where the camera is, and the second thing is then your camera also gets smudgy. Yeah. So I'm like, I think I'm just avoiding tapping that area in general.
For me, it's just again the thumb problem. My thumb isn't long enough to reach there, so I'm not using it. But it's a really nice status indicator. Like especially simple things that we had on the Mac for a very long time. Like whatever you use the menu bar for, right? It's a nice way to have something that isn't window dependent or app dependent. That's always there. So on your iPhone, if you have a 14 Pro, if you have a timer running, it's just up there, and that's nice. And you can see the state. If you have a podcast playing, you can see it, or a music playing, you can see the cover art there. And if you have a podcast and a timer running, then the timer becomes a secondary bubble.
And I think one thing I like is if when you're in a FaceTime call, you can see the like the speech wave moving. A friend of ours, Chris Wu, pointed out that it changes depending on who's speaking. So if you're the one talking, I think it's orange, and if the other person is talking, it's green, and it sort of gets mixed if you talk over each other. It's a really cool like extra thing that like they didn't have to do that, but it adds a lot that it's such a detail there.
I mean, I really hope they can find places to put that kind of playfulness into Mac OS as well. I mean, I want everything to feel alive like that. Not in a annoying way, but just when you use it.
And it's fun, right? It's not it's not going to change your productivity forever, but it's just a fun thing to play with. And I think the Mac, especially like a while ago, like the Genie effect, right? That was always something you would show. Like I've been a Mac user before a lot of my friends started seeing the light. It would always be those kind of things that you would show on a Mac. It's not the Genie effect, again, isn't going to change your life, but it was such a fun thing. And then you could hold the shift key and show it in slow motion.
Yes.
And those kind of things were just fun, right? You showed like, this is a Mac, and there are a whole bunch of fun things. And I think it's a good direction for UI design to not only get things done. And I think it seems like we're going into that direction a little bit, that things are pretty static, and or like as far as like there's not not huge major UI changes, not huge major changes to how you use macOS for a while now. So there's more room for adding delight and fun.
And to get back to your earlier point, Kai, like that some things might not be like a life-changing event if you have it, like, or it's not like if we don't have this, people are not going to get to Mars, but it's like if we have something like this, it's just going to make the device a lot more fun, and it just adds a lot more playfulness. And I think rather than having a device just for the sake of its utility, we don't even need a color screen for an iPhone to be useful. We do, and we have the lights there, and we like being able to actually use the hardware and like use design for something that is just like making your day-to-day stuff better. And I think that's a lot more fun.
So much more fun.
Did we convince you? Are you getting a new phone?
I am going to get a new phone, but I don't know exactly when. or which one for that. I love the smaller sizes as well. The 10-year-old here in the house has an original SE.
Oh wow!
And I still love that size as well. Yeah. I mean, even though typing on the keyboard, it's a bit small for me. I have to admit now that I'm a bit more distanced from it, but I still love the form factor. Totally.
I agree.
Yeah, maybe that's a good place to stop, pause. I don't know. Where should people go to find out more then?
Good question. So I think if you want to check out Mercury weather, it's probably easiest to just search for Mercury weather on the App Store. Surprisingly easy name to find things for. I thought Mercury weather would be
I mean, not surprised. We went through similar to the
totally. But I felt when our friend first I'm not gonna take credit for the name. Our names were really not as good as this name. We had our app is still in Xcode. Our app is still just called Weather. Because we just couldn't settle on a name. But Mercury weather is
bundle
great.
identifier is com.trippleastudios.weather.
yeah. But when our friend suggested this, I'm like, Mercury weather, that's really cool. And then we searched for it. I'm like, there's no way this isn't taken. But it wasn't.
No, exactly.
It's also we like the name for multiple reasons. We thought it's clever to have a reference to temperature, right? Mercury being something you used in thermostats a while ago. Mm-hmm. And also orbit being space themed and Mercury being the English name for the planet Mercury. Mm-hmm. We thought was cool. And Mercury is the planet closest to the sun, which also, it's not technically a weather fact, but still we're like, okay, that kind of...
Yeah, it's in the genre somehow.
Yeah. There's some kind of bridge you could build if you wanted to.
Yep.
So we really liked the name. And our previous ones were terrible.
Yeah.
We were like, the initial code name was Umbrella because we focused so much on the rain forecast or the rain prediction stuff. But Umbrella is kind of, then all of our icons were kind of rain focused.
But also I think Umbrella, if I would install an app called Umbrella, I'd expect it to tell me if I need to bring an umbrella. That's the extent of that.
That's even more niche.
Yeah. we do a lot more than that.
Just yes or no.
Would have been faster to build.
I guess so.
And then we were at Clear, Clear. First of all,
and I was sort of coming from us. We're like, okay, we want a very... we want a clear name. We wanted something that's it's obvious what it is, and it's very easy to remember. It's just a word, but then when clear word, it's also very forgettable. Yeah. So we dismissed that.
And it's always under the app icon. It's a bit weird when it always says clear. It makes it seem like that's the weather condition. So that's not good either. Also, there's a cool indie to-do list app called Clear, and we didn't want to clash with them. And then Mercury was just, all right, that clicked, that makes sense, stays within our company theme of giving everything space names. Mm-hmm. It sounded nice. It was a pleasant sound, and on the App Store, it's easy to find Mercury weather. It's not...
So yes,
that's a long way of... the best way of finding the app is searching for Mercury weather on the App Store.
And I think if you want to if anyone want to... get in touch with us, I think Twitter is the best place for that. So I'm just at Malin Sundberg, and Kai is at AirKai.
That's correct.
Perfect. Yeah. Thank you so much.
Yeah,
and of course all the links are in the show notes as well.
Awesome. Yeah, it's been really fun. Thank you so much for having me on again. And thanks for doing this in English.
Yeah, and thanks for having me the first time and for speaking English. Otherwise, my participation would have been significantly lower. I could have said hello and bye.
Yeah. Why not exclude people?
I might have still had fun listening to you. I think my Swedish understanding is still pretty good. Whenever I hear Malin talk to her parents, I understand most of it.
Yeah,
but my Swedish speaking is pretty rusty. Not a lot of use for Swedish in Vancouver as a German.
It's surprising.
Yeah, you would have thought, right?
Yeah, awesome,
cool. All right.
Yeah, thanks again.
Thanks again.
Yeah,
hej då.
Let's do this more times. Nice. Jag menar, bra.